This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 385 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, Total Saddle Fit, and Horseware Winter Grooming Tip. We're going to two regional competitions with Hilary Moore-Hebert in Virginia at the 34th BLM Championships and Endel on his World Travels and the Region 3 Championships in Georgia. Listen in.
This is Reese Koffler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Rockwood, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show. Whew, Reese, I almost forgot where I was from.
I was noticing. I was trying not to laugh.
I heard that. I was going, he doesn't remember where he's from.
We are recording
I'm like, well,
kind of
let's
late.
not bother doing another take because I can make it a lot worse than that.
Hi, guys. It's been a long time since we've been together.
It has been. You've been traveling the world.
Yes, there has been world travels for sure.
Saw lots of pictures of you from France again.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was able, sometimes in life, if you get to stop and celebrate with someone, it's worth it. My dad won a big award in Paris. He's the first American doctor to win it. So it's
cool.
really, really big deal for him. And he's an ophthalmologist and he's done a bunch of things to help a lot of people. So that was really special. And I was already on the other side of the pond. So of course I had to go horse shopping and to be continued. I have one vetting. Phil got lots of emails last week. What do you think about this one?
Watching horses go around in circles.
Yes,
very fun.
Because of course on my budget it's only a 4-year-old, so I was like, do you like this one going around in circles? But thank goodness I have Bill on my team, and it was fun. So I did find a horse, but we won't. Hopefully next week we'll have a little bit of an update on that. So very exciting, and it was a really, really good week. So but I'm still kind of jet lagged, not gonna lie. I keep thinking I'm fine, and then around 3:00 I'm not fine. So
That's me on a regular day.
Me too, but the coffee's not working.
The coffee stopped working.
Yeah, it's not working. So, but it's so nice to be back with you guys. And
I want the listeners to know, too, how dedicated you guys are. We're at 9:00 at night, and you're still here doing the show. That's how dedicated you are to the listeners.
I've yet to have dinner.
Oh, well, Cranky Phil's going to come out.
Yeah. He's either going to be asleep or he's just going to be gone.
He won't be eating dinner. He will have dessert and go to bed right after we're done. Ice cream bed.
That's also a normal day for me.
Yeah.
That's why you're so skinny. Well, and Glenn too, you had the radio show, so it's always great to have you guys, and we love it, and we love our listeners, and it's fun. We're back in routine now and getting ready for the busy fall. I mean, there's 2 regional championships this week, and I'm already getting massive calls about people wanting to come to Kentucky, so I love it. It's a lot of fun.
And we have Radiothon coming up. We have confirmed a bunch of the prizes now, and basically it's going to be bigger than last year. You guys are participating in Radiothon this year. It's our 12-hour live event on Cyber Monday, all about the holidays.
We're getting our own hour.
We're getting our own hour.
Yes. You would have had your own hour last year had you been able to make it, but you were traveling, I think, Phil, and Reese was teaching. So we
yes. We're at again. Remind our listeners what time we are this year.
I don't remember. I have to look it up. You're earlier in the day, 1:00 in the afternoon Eastern time, and you're going to be. It's 12 hours live, and we give prizes away every hour, and we'll talk more about that. But I've confirmed now the grand prizes, and it's $1,200 in grand prizes for one winner at the end of the day. And we're going to give away hourly prizes to a bunch of other people. So it'll be over $3,000 in prizes this year.
Don't mind if you see a Judith Stanfield in that listing. I don't know who that is.
And also, we got some great guests we're lining up that you're working on some, and we're working on some. And let's just say that that'll be a lot of fun with those guests that are going to be coming on as well. All talking about the holidays and Christmas.
Love it.
Good time.
Love it. Very, very fun. Well, right after this commercial break from Kentucky Performance Products, we're coming back with our favorite guest of the month, Hilary Moore-Hebert from Dressage Today from the BLM Championships in Virginia.
She had waited all her life for this moment, dreaming about it since she was 10 years old. The trailer ramp touched the ground. He whinnied as she backed him out, swinging his head around to get a good look at his new home. His coat gleamed in the sun. Her love had arrived. She was breathless. He was beautiful. She could hardly wait to tack him up and start off on what she was sure would be the best times of her life. This love story is brought to you by Contribute, providing essential omega-3 fatty acids that help maintain low inflammation levels throughout your horse's body. The horse that matters to you matters to Kentucky Performance Products. Call 859-873-2974 or visit kppusa.com to order today.
Well, we are very happy to have Hilary Moore-Hebert on the show tonight. She's a regular guest of ours and a contributing editor to Dressage Today, and she is joining us from regional championships in Lexington, Virginia.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Hilary. How's it going?
Fine, thank you. How are you guys?
Good, good. We thought I'd start the interview. You're at a regionals, but not a USDF regionals, and some confusing stuff. So maybe you can start by explaining what's going on.
Yes. So, and that's why you might be able to hear horses in the background.
Yeah, we love it hearing horses in the background.
The horse park of Virginia. We're down here at the Colonel Bent Lundquist Memorial Championship, and it is similar to the regional championships, but the region counts not as a USDF region, which we had that a couple weeks ago. It's actually for specific GMO members. So for the U.S., it's group member organizations. So we are members of the Potomac Valley Dressage Association, and there are many along the East Coast that are participating members for this. So you just have to participate and get it's instead of the third test of the level, it's the second test of the level. So we have people from training to FEI, and then the FEI test, it's just the FEI test. And then you have to get a certain score requirement as with the regionals, but you do not need to do two. You just need to do one test, then get the score, and you don't have to pay that magical $10 qualifying fee. So if you get the score and didn't think about whether or not you wanted to qualify, you still are qualified as long as you're a GMO member.
Cool. Okay. And what kind of geography? Is this all East Coast or?
I do know that you can do qualifying championships down in Florida, but it's not just our region being New Jersey down to North Carolina. There's people outside of the region that come. So you have to be at what is called a CBLM qualifier, which you'll see on the prize list if you're competing somewhere. And so it's sort of scattered. And to be honest, I don't entirely know all of the group member organizations that participate, but I do know that people come from a bit further away.
Yeah, so I assume there's a lot of horses and it's a pretty big show.
Yeah, like we have, I would say, I'm counting, there's a coliseum, an amphitheater, a smaller indoor for the freestyle, and then probably another 4 outdoor rings. So it's a big show.
Well, awesome. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about, what horses you've brought and what you're hoping to accomplish this weekend.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. I actually have some students coming, and I think it's really cool because our smallest participating horse is 14.3, and our largest participating horse is 17.1. And we have an unregistered paint that is doing the training level. We have a Morgan, who is doing second and third level. We have an Arab Frisian Cross, who is doing first and second level. And then we have a Dutch Warm Blood that is doing Pre-St. George and I1.
So you've got a real variety.
Yes, and only one warm blood. So I think that that's a neat thing.
Very good, very good. So tell us a little bit of the story behind maybe some of the not so dressage categorized breeds. Yeah.
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 Without us having to zip our flame suits up. So I think what's really neat is to see how the non-warm blood breeds can be so compatible for amateurs wanting to be really competitive. I mean, I'm not talking about going out and doing a second level test and barely scratching by to get scores to your bronze. I mean, they're at championships, and I think it's really neat to see that there's horses that are non-warm bloods competing against warm bloods. And it's not to say there's anything wrong with warm bloods. I show them myself and love them equally much, but it's nice to see you have, we have one horse, the Paint, she used to be a hunter, and we went into the Coliseum and the rider just had her on the buckle. She was bomb-proof. And I'd like to see that there's certain strengths of horses in terms of their background that maybe, you know, it doesn't have to just be the breed we're talking about, but their background can help them have more experience. The Morgan, he is 20 years old. He has helped get other riders their bronze medal scores, and he helped my student Jan this year get her bronze medal. She is going to be competing him in the championships, and he is sort of that quintessential Morgan. He's just going strong and, you know, fit as ever, and it's really phenomenal to see. He, because he's so old, has been there and done that, as well as, you know, doing some pony club things also, so has a ton of mileage, so that's neat to see. The other horse I think that's really fascinating is the Arab Frisian Cross, as you guys probably know, is qualified to do a lot of those sport horse shows, which I don't know very much about, but, you know, if they're half Frisian or full Arab, they can do a lot of, you know, what I see my friends doing on Facebook, where they're posting photos from all of those breed-specific dressage shows. And as a result of that, she was saying that he's really used to the ring, because at those shows, it's a multidisciplinary. So you could be in the warm-up ring with horses that are in traditional costume or, you know, the like. And so he's pretty used to a lot of things also. So I think that that's neat to see.
Yeah, I think it's awesome talking about the horses getting, you know, more experienced. I think we think too much inside the box sometimes, you know, in our dressage showing, and just thinking, oh, well, he needs more experience, take him to more dressage shows. But I know there's some, you know, some smaller hunter shows that I've taken students to, you know, not the top level stuff, but, you know, they can do the sort of the flat classes and get some experience there. And, you know I have students who have done some pony club stuff, and, you know, and hunter paces, and, you know, there's a lot of fun things that a dressage horse is very capable to do that's not so dressage specific. And I think that we have to, you know, think outside the box, you know, to get the horse's experience.
Don't you notice too from that is, I notice when you go to shows that perhaps have more spectators, then you have people come and do their first dressage show, and they're like, what's the big deal about being nervous? There's only 3 people watching here. I'm used to having 100 people watching.
Yeah.
So it gives you perspective, I think.
I think even if you're not taking your horse, if you just go to some of these events and you get out of the box a little bit, and you can sort of realize, like, horses have to do a whole bunch of other things, and they handle it fine. I think, you know, we go to a dressage show, and if somebody claps in the middle of your test, you freak out because, you know, you know, it's dressage. You have to be, you know, be quiet. But all it does is sort of keeps your horse in the box as well, and you know, doesn't expose him to stuff, and you get very tense when something strange, you know, sort of happens, or if all of a sudden there's a loose horse in the ring next to your ring, and then, you know, it can really throw you off. Whereas I think if you are out to more things, you realize that these horses can do a lot more, and you know, I like for beginner riders to buy a horse that's a little more experienced and has been around, but you can also do that with your own horse just by, you know, getting out there. And I have students that trailer places to just go for a hack, or, you know, other students who are really lucky and get to ride along the beach. And, you know, there's a ton you can do with a horse. And if you have a dressage horse, that means, you know, they should be under control and calm and steady and be able to do all these things as well.
Well, I think it was interesting to me because there's always that cliche of the crazy eventing horses. And I have students who event, and I grew up eventing, but I don't think I ever thought about it. And I went to coach, I remember several years ago, and every single person had their horse tied to the side of the trailer.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it's like where you are, but that does not happen in the dressage shows. People would be like, they're way too hot. I would never do that. They'd kill themselves. And so it's interesting to see quote unquote hot, event horses, and they're all meanwhile, tied up. There's dogs relaxing underneath, and they seem a lot more bomb-proofed in terms of that. So I think it's also neat to see, how people do things, because I think in the dressage community, we can get so stuck in what we do. And what's neat, like I am actually watching as Sarah's setting up her stall, because she is used to doing those sport horse shows. She has a different way of doing things that sometimes you learn neat little tricks that we just get into our own thing over and over again. Like, I even noticed, this is a funny thing, but like when I looked at the New England region championship, they do their barn banners like across the top of the aisle from stall to stall, whereas we usually put them on the tack stalls over the door.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting to see that, just something small like that, but it's just a habit you pick up from everyone immediately around you. And I think the more we expand our horizons, the more you start to get ideas. And while that's just stall banners, how else does that translate in terms of what we're doing in our training and, just in general, how we are as horse people?
Yeah. I mean, really good point. So I was going to ask you today, Hilary, what kind of tips and stuff are you talking about when you're coaching this weekend? Because I think we have a lot of riders doing their regionals and sort of getting ready for the nationals, and maybe you could talk a little bit about some coaching stuff.
Yeah, so the biggest tip, and it is not mine at all, people talk about this all the time.
You're stealing again.
Is you what?
You're stealing again. You're stealing tips.
Oh, I thought that you were having a hard time hearing me. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm stealing again, because we all hear this all the time, and I think it's the best advice is don't ride like you're at a show when you go to a show. Ride every day at home like you're at a show. So when you go to a show, ride like you're at home. And then you'll be competitive, but then you're not doing all sorts of weirdo things where suddenly you're trying to do this crazy extended trot like you're at the Olympics for the first time, and your horse is freaking out because you're putting all this pressure on. I think that to me is one of the first things that I first of all do at home is I really make sure that the students are prepared, so that when we go to the show, they run through the test. I'll even have times if I have someone who's having a hard time remembering it, I'll say to them, as they're in a walk break, I'll start chatting with them about how their work was that day. And then all of a sudden I'll say, pick up your reins, pick up the left lead canter at C, and finish the second half of your test. And they have to know it immediately. And I want them that comfortable with it. So we go to schooling shows, we run through the test at home. In addition to working on the quality of the horses, the dressage work, I want them to know the test so that they're comfortable with it and they're not just worried about what comes up next.
Yeah, I think that's for us dressage types, that's really a very normal thing to ride every day, like you're in a show. But how do you mentally prepare for that, and how do you do that on a daily basis? Sort of create a little bit more of that intensity that you're gonna have at a show. How do you do that for yourself?
Well, I think for myself, it's easier. To be honest, the big tip that I have for students who work all day long at a job and then they have to come and ride and everything, I tell them, I don't give them permission. I tell them to give themselves permission to ride for as much as they have the brain power for. So if that means that you need to get on and walk for 20 minutes, or if instead of riding for 45 minutes, you need 10 minutes to yourself to decompress and stretch, I'd rather that you have quality over quantity. And that, I think, is the big thing, is to give yourself permission to take time away from being in the saddle so you're mentally prepared, physically prepared when you get in the saddle, and then only do as much as you have the capacity for. And I think, as a professional, that's a bit easier. Probably, as you get onto your 8th horse, 10th horse of the day, it's not so much. But it's better to ride with quality than say, I've got to be doing my 45 minutes. So if we have a lesson and something's great and people are starting to feel tired, it's okay if we finish a bit early, because the point is to be riding with quality and the quality you want at the show.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. For myself, if I'm going to just talk about it a little bit, is that, I really try and create every day like I was at the show. So, I have almost the exact same warm up with the horses every day, and then so
yes,
I sort of limit the warm up to what I think the horse needs, so that I don't do 40 minutes one day, 20 minutes the other day, 15 minutes. I sort of make a plan that
so this horse, exactly. It's sort of
this horse
the choreography.
Does exactly 15 minutes, and then I need to be ready to do a test.
Yeah.
And that's sort of how my rides go. And whether I ride the test or not, I have that same plan. And then either it will be, okay, now I'm going to do a test now, or I make the decision, okay, now we're going to work on something that's harder now. So if if I have a third level horse and we're competing at third level, at that 15, or it's usually 15 to 25 minutes at that point, every day, we're doing a test now, and I've sort of warmed up all the movements I need for that test, or now we're going to, if it's a third level horse, I'm going to do some pirouette work, or so it's sort of very structured, and that's what works, sort of best for me, so that when I get to a show, it's, the exact same warm up, and I would go, if he's going to do a third three or whatever, I've done all the same work that would warm up the third three, and then I'm ready to go in the ring and just, one chance to do it, right? So, I sort of separate the ride into two sections, a little bit like that, and then maybe three sections if you include the cool down period. But I think that works awesome for me, and I've sort of done it for my students as well, because I only know what works best for me, so that's how I teach. And then they also have a plan that if I'm not at the show, we've done all the ride. We do it every day, right? They know what they need to have for the warm-up.
Yeah, so just repeat it.
Just repeat it and go and do it. So
what I like about that too, because I do exactly the same thing. I like that too because I think it gets the students thinking like trainers. And what I mean is, don't you agree that if you do the same thing every day, you can start to say, yesterday that leg yield was easier. Today, the leg yield to the right feels harder, and he's not off my leg on the left. So you start to become aware of where your strengths and weaknesses are that day. You go, forward in transitions, your horse goes flying forward, but then you try to slow down and they're not as easy as the day before. So you're starting to get a sense too of where your horse is. So instead of just going through the movements, if you do the same pattern or program, you start to get a sense of, what did that feel like compared to yesterday and the day before.
Yeah, I think it's an important point that I say that, as I'm doing that warm up, in quotations or whatever, that all the corrections are happening then and there, right? So when I say I'm ready to do the test, it's going to, that test I expect to be perfect because I've done the corrections. If the horse is running through the hand a little bit, then he gets the half halts in that, warm up period. If he's not off my leg, he gets, he gets a little work on whatever he needs to work on. He gets it at that point and not after. I don't say, and now I'm ready to make all my corrections, because all the work that you've done to sort of set yourself up is all there. You have to get that horse ready. Like, you don't give him 20 minutes to sort of lollygag and go around and do nothing. No, that work has a purpose, and it's to correct him, and it's to get him ready to do. So if it's the test I'm doing that day, then fine. If it's to go from single flying changes to try some tempi changes, he's ready to do the tempi changes because I've done all the corrections. The homework is in. The homework is in that first 20 minutes or so. It's not the last 20 minutes of a ride. So
like you could do the warm up. You could do the warm up, get off, and feel like you hadn't allowed them to get away with things.
Yeah, and had a good ride just from that. Yeah, if I'm on a short day and I'm really pressed for time, that's the ride that they're going to get, because I know that they would be ready to perform at that point. Yeah, so that works for me, and it can be recreated every single day. And I think that's what horses need, is just the same kind of riding every day, and that allows them to be able to perform, at big competitions or whatever, because it's very structured.
Well, I think don't you think too, there's a relaxation to it. There's a peacefulness to having that, the same way as someone who, I don't sing, but I would imagine the way that you warm up your voice the same way before you sing. You sort of have comfort in this familiarness. So also, too, I like it because then when you're going into the warm-up before your test, you're nervous about 150 things. One of them does not have to be, what am I supposed to be doing right now?
Yeah, for sure. You have to have a plan. And yeah, I mean, sort of, as a trainer, you sort of approach it, kind of like a job, right? And that job, just has repetitiveness. So each horse I get on sort of, and they know what the job is, and we're all ready to do it. And on days where we're not in the ring or, hacking out, whatever, that's all we're doing. We're not trying to, really ride the horse. So I think they just get really, as a rider, that gives yourself a plan every day, and it helps with the timing of each ride. So I know, okay, I can fit 3 horses in an hour and a half, and I can do that. So
yeah,
that gives my life a little bit of structure too. So perfect. Well, anything else about the regionals before we leave you to probably go back to work or whatever you're up to?
Yeah, I think we're going to braid horses and then go to dinner. I think the only thing is, it's really exciting to see that, everyone has their season wrapping up. So I would encourage people to not only think about this, but when you go home and start relaxing, start to think about a little bit decompressing for a second instead of just thinking about work when you get back. I think it's good for the horses and people to make sure that you unwind for a second, unless you're going to finals. At that point, think about it a little bit later. But I think we're at a high intensity point right now in the competition season. So I encourage everyone, once they're done, to kind of exhale and enjoy what you had for the season.
Very good. That's a great message. And Hilary, how do people find you online?
They can check us out at dressagetoday.com, as well as on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube and Pinterest.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you next month.
Sounds great.
This winter grooming tip is brought to you by Horseware Blankets. Joining us are 2 of the top grooms in the country, eventer Philip Dutton's groom Emma Ford and Kat Hill from World Class Grooming. Well, this week's Horseware Winter Grooming Tip of the Week is brought to you by Kat. Kat, we're talking about blanketing for the busy work day. You start off in the morning, you make sure the horses have their blankets on, and then you go to work for 8 hours, and then it warms up. What do?
The key to keeping your horse comfortable all day is it's pretty simple. It's the same thing that you use, and that's layering. One heavyweight blanket that they wear all night and during the day can oftentimes get too hot during the middle of the day, and then especially if you're not coming back again till after dark, then they get chilled because they've gotten too hot in the middle of the day. Rambo has 2 amazing options for this. The first is their layering option, where they have a liner that clips to a top layer, and the liner helps to regulate their body temperature more similarly to how their own coat works, because you've got the 2 layers that breathe a little bit better than just one big heavy layer. And it also helps prevent the chill from taking hold if they've got warm in the middle of the day and then cooling down in the evening. The other one is Rambo has a product which is their Vera layer, which is one rug. It's super easy to use. You just put on whatever weight they're going to wear all day, you put on in the morning. And right now, it's about 40 degrees in the morning, and it's getting up to 60 degrees where we are during the day. And so my horse is wearing the midweight, the midweight Vera layer. And what that does is it actually is designed to act more like their own coat. So similar to how performance fleece works for people, it doesn't get too hot, but it also doesn't get, it also keeps them really nice and toasty. And that Vera layer system helps horses self-regulate, similar to how their own hair works. So they stay a lot more comfortable through the day.
Great advice for a problem that everybody is familiar with and we all worry about when we go to work in the morning and don't get to see our horses till evening. And I'm glad they came up with a solution like that, because before, the old days, short of having somebody come out at noon and take a layer off, that was the only option you had. Well, Kat, where can people find out more about you guys?
We're on the web at worldclassgrooming.com, and you can also find us on Facebook and Instagram if you look up the same thing, World Class Grooming. And we published a book, the best-selling horse book last year, and it's World-Class Grooming for Competition Horses. And you can find it on our website or wherever horse books are sold.
And we have breaking news just in. Hold the presses. This week only, from October 14th through the 17th, you can get $100 off any Rambo turnout blanket, including the Vera layer that Kat talked about, the Rambo Duo, the Optimo, and the Original, the Supreme, and all the others in the Rambo turnout line. All you have to do is trade in your old turnout from any brand for a horse in need. Simply visit horseware.com/trade for more information and fill out the form for the voucher you will need to get your $100 off. That's from the 14th through the 17th. The complete list of retailers is on the website at horseware.com/trade as well. Open to U.S. and Canadian residents only. Go to horseware.com today and trade in that blanket that you currently have to a brand new Rambo and get $100 off on this weekend only from the 14th through the 17th.
Well, our next guest is always a favorite, Endel. He's back to tell us what he's been doing the last year. He's been a world traveler. Well, tonight we are so happy to have Endel back on the show. Endel, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, lucky, your guy, he is now 6 years old, right? And he went to World Breeding Championships, won the national championships for young horses. Wow, you have had quite a season.
Yeah, I've been very lucky and very happy with my horse. He's been great.
Oh, fantastic. Well, start us out. Start us for the kind of the beginning of the season and getting ready for the World Breeding Championships.
Yeah, so as anybody that knows on going from single changes to lead changes, that's a little bit difficult, and especially with young horses and things. So I had a few, to do the simple changes. It's a lot of, it's a big jump from 5-year-olds to 6-year-olds to be able to do, clean changes on your aids with no whip on anything. And so the qualifications, he was good. He had, good shows to qualify. I qualified in front of Lilo 4, who judged him at the Young Horse Championships. I think he qualified with 78%. Had, I think, 3 9s on across the board on there, and he was great. I was very, very happy with him. Was really awesome, and I've been working a lot with Christine Traurig since the World Breeding Championships last year. She has been more and more being a mentor and helping me, and being Mother Traurig, as she calls herself, on me. And I had ridden with Jo Hinneman in the USDF Symposium with Lucky, and then the other horse that I showed at the World Championships last year. And I had a really nice time. I thought it was a really great experience. So in leading up to the World Breeding Championships, this year, last year I went over, and I thought, I went over there 5 weeks, I think, before the breeding championships. This year I couldn't do that I have more riders, and I have BB Davis and all these people that teach now. I couldn't go over there for that long, so I thought I'd go over there a couple of weeks beforehand, get him situated and everything. And I spoke with, a lot of other riders to try to plan that out. And I went to Hinneman's place instead of Hans Heinrich's. And I had a nice time over there at Hinneman. It's a beautiful facility and was, super helpful. And, it was really nice to be able to, we had dinner with Jo every night with his wife and his riders, and to be able to, pick his brain, ask him just random questions on his, greatest successes and his biggest failures and his, views on horses and life and everything. And so it was really, for me, a fantastic learning experience, just to be able to, ask, one of the last great masters, just random questions in the middle of the night on about anything we wanted. And I had a great time.
I wish I would have had been a fly. Yeah, fly on that wall. Not gonna lie.
No, it was great. I mean, it was very open. I mean, I asked him everything. I mean, I asked him, what what his greatest accomplishment was and what his biggest failure was, and I mean, a lot of the stuff, and I have to say he was great. And I would tell you guys, but he made me promise, like, no, this is between us on there.
Yeah, that's fair.
It was after a few glasses of wine on both sides, and so I was just very honest, and I was, asked him about, being, in a relationship with his wife, and with, how you can make that work, when you have two riders, and if there's any jealousy, and how they work it out, and how things work, and I found it really fascinating, and I mean, he was just such an open book and so helpful, and just a great guy. I really had a fantastic time.
Yeah,
that's
nice
really
experience.
Cool. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the championships and the difference of the 2 years, because you were in Verden last year, and this year it was in Holland, in the Netherlands. So tell us how your experiences varied, and how some of the similarities as well.
Well, I mean, if you start out with just the showgrounds, I mean, in the Netherlands, the Longines championships or the shows that they have for jumpers and things. I think it was the son of the guy who runs the Longines championships for jumpers and stuff. They managed it at Ermelo for the World Breeding Championships, and it's the first time they've held it there. And they really did an amazing job. I mean, from the VIP tents to the Wi-Fi to the people to the warm-ups, everything. I mean, they really pulled out all the stops with everything. It was a fantastic experience with horses and people, and they were friendly, and it was really great, and on that aspect, and they had it in a nice big stadium where they have the Dutch National Championships, and it was great. I mean, it was a beautiful atmosphere and everything. I have to say that, since I have ridden at Verden, where, the people, I mean, you could reach out and grab a Kaiser roll off somebody's plate when you're riding around the outside. It was, I like that, actually. I thought it was so electrifying, and so, like, you can hear people talk, and then it's so great when you're riding in the ring, and then everybody gets quiet, and you're like, oh, I'm doing really good, I mean, and when everybody's quiet, and here they had the stadium, and it was a little bit grander, but it had a little bit less of the hometown feel on there. They had at Verden, there's a hill on the short side when you enter at A, where like little kids and the families had camped out there, and I mean, you saw how popular just horses were among people around in that area, that it was such a big thing. And while it was really great in Gren, I think it was really they did the best job they could to live up to Verden, and they really did a super job with everything, and they really pulled all the stops. But it's hard, to have to then move something that has been set in a area for so long, to move it to someplace else. I mean, people have been going to that showgrounds, at Verden for this World Championships for generations. People that don't even, care about dressage, or just normal people with their kids came off the street in there. So I think they could not have done a better job. It's an impossible task when you have that, that atmosphere and that kind of feeling at Verden. But no, it was great. It was a, super fun experience. Leading up into there, it was really nice. I have kind of passed by David Whitman a little bit here and there, and I didn't know him super well. He teaches some clinics at same places I have, and it was nice to get to know him a little bit better. And that was fun. And the schooling leading up to it, Lucky was great, and he was really super. And I think that for me, it was a little bit of a learning experience, because I went into this championship for last year, him finishing 11th, and I mean, I had no really expectation for him to do that well, and I a little bit pushed him a little too hard in the test. So I a little bit was trying to make everything even a little bit more extravagant, and say, okay, well, I get an 8.5 now, well, I want a 9, and then push it a little bit more. So there was a little bit of tension. I had clean tests on all the days, but it was a little bit too much tension on there, and I think that instead I lost a little bit of the harmony on there, and that's also what Christine said. She said, the warm up, I mean, has never looked so good, and she said it was great and it was super, and she said, you went in the ring, and like, it just changed a little bit, and originally she thought it was lucky, and I said, it wasn't, I said, I went in there and I thought, okay, all right, he schooled so good every single day, and I had, so many people come up to me and tell me how great he looked and everything, and I thought I would, hey, okay, I'm going to show them. I show him how good he is. And for me, he had good rides. He didn't make it into the final, but he had good rides in there, and I was just, it was for me a learning experience, and it made me remember that this is not a sport like you go racing or running and you go as fast as you can, and then you end up in the end and you put as much effort, that there's a line, and if you go past that line, tension comes up. And I think that it was good for me as a rider and hopefully as a future competitor for the US to be able to look and say, there's only so much you can try, that if you go past a certain point of trying too hard, that tension comes up because you have another partner in there. And while I would have loved, to have, done as well as I had the year before, I think it was important for me to learn that lesson on there. And that's, what I changed when I went over into Chicago. When I went back home, I flew home right afterwards, and, I had a conversation with Christine, and I schooled Lucky in Chicago for the national championships. And, I rode around there, and all the judges came up to me after the first ride, and they said, wow, that's amazing. We've the biggest comment they said was, we've never seen you ride this horse this well. Really great, super job. And then they came up to me after they did the comments, and they came up and they said, why didn't you do better in Europe? If you rode like that,
yeah, thank you.
Why didn't you? Yeah, exactly. Why didn't you do better in Europe? And I said, well, I didn't ride like this. I rode way too much in there. And they're like, oh, okay, well that makes sense. And so no, I think it's good. You reach a little bit too far, and I think you try just a little bit too much. And I think it's good. I mean, Lucky tries so hard for me that he'll try harder than he can actually do, so when I try to make everything even bigger than he can do it, he'll try, and then tension comes up because he physically can't.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's just such a great tip for everyone is, we all want to go in the ring, and not everyone, but I would say the majority of us are pretty competitive, and you want to do better in the ring, but sometimes that works against you, and you really have to think about it. And I think what's cool is, I think we all have to learn that lesson and kind of reevaluate, what you're doing, and I think that's really cool. And here you're at the top, you're at the World Championships, and you're saying, so I think that was really cool, and a really cool tip for all of us.
Well, and I think, for me, I had such, success last year on there that I hadn't really expected. And I just went in there and rode my horse. I just showed everybody my horse. And I went in here and I was trying to show even more, instead of just riding around, just showing them the horse and letting Lucky do his job and not getting in his way. And, when I do that, and just let him kind of go around and, organize and show him, it goes great. But when I try to make him something he's not, when I try to show a horse that's maybe 8-9 years old because he has a talent for that, then, you can see where there's a little rhythm mistake here, or there's a little bit tension there. And when I watched the test, I looked at it and go, oh, okay, I get it. And, it was really what I really like, and what was for me, my highlight from Ermelo was they had a cool new system over there. So you do the first test. If you don't make if you don't make in the top 12, you do it again on the second day. And so I did it. I had tried too hard the first day. Then the second day I thought, okay, I'm just going to ride. I'm just going to show them the nice horse. I'm going to show them how it goes. And it was great for they have the spectators. They also judge on there. So they post that on the big scoreboard. And on the second day, I won on the spectator judging on there. And so it was really nice and for me, that was my highlight, is that, okay, it didn't correlate, and it's very difficult at these big championships if you don't win the first day, or you don't do really well, or you have a big disaster. It's just kind of where they look at it and they go, I don't love it. It's really hard to get back in there. But it was, for me, really nice to have the spectators look at it and say, I really like this combination. I like how it looks. And, that for me was what I learned from there, to be able to look at it and say, okay, I learned my lesson the first day. It's a little bit of a hard lesson, a little kick in the stomach, but was needed. And I had a great time.
Awesome. Well, that is really that's cool. It's cool to hear that, and it's cool to hear how you can change, because it really, you're developing this horse. He's going to be he already has been a fantastic horse for the United States, and now this is how you make him even better. So, what's the plan with him? What is he up to right now?
Yeah, well, I have to say I haven't done anything with him. I have played around with a little bit of in-hand piaffe steps with him. But in an interview I did when he won the 6-year-olds, I said that I was going to, do the, focus on the developing St. George for next year. And I a little bit said it without thinking. And I had a conversation with Christine, and I said, I don't want to. And I said, tell me I'm wrong. Give me a half halt, I can take it. Tell me I should just go for it and whatever. And she said, no, you're absolutely right. Don't go for the developing St. George. Don't go back to Europe for the 7-year-olds in the pre-St. George. Focus on that. This becomes a horse that, can represent the U.S. in the Grand Prix. And, it's enough. It's okay, So I think for next year with him, I don't think I show him. I think that I, play around with some of the Grand Prix stuff. Maybe the year after, maybe when he's 8, I would do some developing St. George with him, and play around and just kind of feel, where he is with stuff. Because, he has been, he's been such a good boy, and crisscross all over, and it was important for, I would say it was more important for me to go to Chicago than it was for him. I really wanted to prove that I could do it, that I could ride in the way that I wanted to, and he didn't need to. He's such a good horse, and really positive and with me, and he loves his work, and I don't want to lose that, and I want to really keep him honest in the ring. And the horse, I've shown him at 5 different shows, maybe 6 different shows in total, including the World Championships. Not many, and I think that in the next year or so, I want to continue to develop the Grand Prix. The piaffe is there, the passage is there, the changes are there, pirouettes are there. Everything is there. And so, the conversation I had with Christine was, it doesn't matter. So what's the point of going and winning, developing, St. George over there in Chicago? It's a great thing, and it's a great program. But, it's really important to keep an eye on, and that I have to give Christine the credit on there. She's like, you got to keep an eye on what's really important, what the end goal is. And the end goal is to represent the U.S. in, international Grand Prix sport. And you don't want to, the horse loves showing, and, he really gets along with it well. And he has been, very solid with soundness and with everything. You want to keep that. You want to keep it fun and keep it happy. So I think just playing around with, just schooling and playing around with the Grand Prix stuff. I might throw him in a St. George next year in a national thing, but I'm not going to do the young horse stuff with him next year, and just give him a nice year to grow and relax and get strong, and then see what he tells me and where he tells me he wants to be, and go from there.
That is awesome, Endel. Well, you've just done such an amazing job with this horse, and we've enjoyed watching you the whole time with him. And how can our listeners find you online if they have any questions?
If they have any questions, Facebook is great. I have this, I guess there's a limit. It's like a 5,000 friend limit. So I don't know if I have any more friends I can have. I have to delete people. But if you just Google my name, and I have a website. You can send me a message on there, and anybody that has any questions, I'm happy to answer. And for me, it's very important to also, like, if there's any kids that are listening, or young riders, or anybody that I can help and be able to give any sort of advice to, I mean, email me. My phone number is on my website and whatever. Email me, text me, bug me about it. I mean, I'll do the best I can. It was very important for me, when I, moved from different trainers to different places. I had emailed a few people, and a few, quote, famous people. And I have to say, a lot of these people that were very successful never got back to me, and never emailed me, or then emailed and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm really busy. I don't have time to talk to you." But anybody that, if there's any kids or anybody or anything that I can help with anybody with, I'm happy to give you my opinion, and it's only my opinion. It's not anything, it's only from my experiences and everything. So anybody I can help, I mean, I am more than willing to, help out anybody that wants any help I can give them.
Oh, Endel, you really are such a nice guy, and everybody, he's true. He's such a great guy in person as well. So thanks, Endel, so much for coming on the show. We always love having you, and we can't wait to check in with Lucky next year.
All right. Well, that sounds like a good plan, and I'm always thank you guys for having me on the show, and I really am very honored to be here and very happy to be a part of it.
This week's dressage training tip is brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, home of the shoulder relief girth at TotalSaddleFit.com.
Well, we've been promising for the last couple of weeks we were getting some listener tips on. So, Phil, you have one, right?
Yeah, we have a listener sent us a really nice email. It's a little long for me to read the whole thing, but it's a horse. It's a Hanoverian Draft Cross. Sounds like a really good horse. The person has been competing him in training level with some really good scores, above 70% here. And it sounds like they're on the right path, but they're having a trouble with the lengthenings. She says, I found out if I slow the rhythm down, I lose the activity behind. And if I ask for more power behind, I get a rushed horse. So I think this is a very, 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 I don't know if I can say very enough, a big problem with a lot of horses and developing them, and how do you develop the lengthenings without, the horse rushing, and, how do you train that? So I think I'll throw it to you there, Reese, and how do you develop a lengthening, and how do you get not so much rushing and all this thing?
Well, the first thing I like to tell all my students when we're sort of having this conversation, and sometimes, even really, really top horses, they don't have the balance in training to first level that they need for the lengthenings, which is where sort of the rushing comes from. And so I tell them, I really remind them that a lot of this is strength. Strength is a super, super important thing. And strength does not happen overnight. Some horses are naturally gifted with a super, super lengthening, and others aren't as gifted in that department. So that's the first thing I say is, listen, sometimes this doesn't happen overnight, and you need to take your time with while you're doing it, because you are building strength. So that's the first thing I would say is, one of the things I like to do for strength building, we do talk about cavalettis and trot poles. I think those really help, because I think they help activate the hind leg. I think the listener is on the right track. She knows, okay, if I activate the hind legs, then sometimes he rushes because he can't keep the balance. So that's normal. And I would also say, sometimes you think, oh, okay, I can go the full 60 meters of the arena. But that's really, really difficult for horses to do, especially the ones that don't have the balance that you want. So one of the things that you need to also make sure is that you have a half vault, that the horse is able to sort of rebalance on the hind legs when they get long and flat and start to rush. So those are a couple things, a lot of transitions. We talk about that a lot, but that is really real here. I like to make sure that my horses know how to go into the corners and rebalance a little bit in the corners. Some of this is a little more advanced than first level, but it's the right idea. And then also just remember that time is important, and repetition will help you build that strength. So Phil, what's your next step?
Well, I think that, this is a place where I don't know if people can remember, but all of the tests used to, up until second or third level were ridden in the 20x40 ring. And so I like your point that you said that it is really difficult across the 60-meter ring to keep a decent lengthening for a horse that is at first, a horse who is truly at first level. This is really tough. So we talk about showing, sort of training at home for second level and then showing at first level, because the second level canter walk transitions build the strength to be able, and you develop it, and then you bring it into the trot. So I think that's something to look at, is to maybe spend an extra year at training level and try and show at training level for that year, but train to second level, if that makes any sense.
No, it does.
The other thing I found kind of useful in these horses, because it is a really difficult problem even for trainers, is to try to do the lengthening to a walk transition.
Oh yeah.
And if you go lengthening to on the idea of a free walk, so you sort of push the horse along and then take them to a super relaxed long frame. To not do that, that's trying to describe this is a little tricky now that I've gotten into it a little bit, but it's teaching forward and relaxed at the same time, if that makes any sense. And to do a little bit your lengthenings in shoulder in. Again, that's the idea of training at second level, and training the lengthening, and it's just 3 strides at a time. I know that's tough to, sort of stick to that over a few months, but 3 strides at a time and then back again, and 3 strides at a time and back again, and just ad nauseum. I don't expect even 20 meters,
They can't do
5
it.
meters. Yeah, 5 meters at a time is fine. The other thing I do is to start with a 10-meter circle, do a lengthening, and end with a 10-meter circle, so that the transition forward and back is not necessarily coming from your hands and legs, is that the horse can a little bit more naturally develop it. And I think, don't do it across the diagonals, because on the diagonal, the horse is expected to lengthen and sort of change the balance and the bend at the same time. I think that's a big problem. I'm doing it along long sides and short sides, so the horse stays in one direction. So you can master that first before you can master the lengthen combined with the developing the balance as you sort of change the direction at the same time. So I would start on the long side with a 10-meter circle right out the corner, or even in the corner, push the horse on a few strides, and then 10-meter circle, so you're not grabbing the reins back, and it's that pulling backwards that makes the horse a little bit nervous and can make your rhythm really problematic, and can also lead to tension, because the horse wants to go forward but knows that at the end of the forward there's a lot of contact coming, and then they're nervous about going forward, and then it just snowballs and has that effect. So you try and develop ideas that don't pull the horse backwards, and sometimes let them rush a few strides, let them sort of figure it out. Don't always stop them making the mistake. They have to sort of make the mistake themselves and learn for themselves how to correct it. You have to get out their way sometimes to develop the horse. But every horse is a little bit different, and this is a super challenging step. So
it is, and I liked your idea of do 3 strides. That is a super big pet peeve of mine, is people keep going across the full diagonal.
Oh, then you kick, pull, and the balance isn't the balance of the rider isn't good, and it's just again, these things snowball so quickly that now you're developing a training problem instead of good habits. So
right, I like that. 3 strides, do it again. 3 strides, do it again. 3 times. That's a great
and then tip. A walk break in between. If the horse is getting tense, don't do it. Right, just maybe for 2 weeks you stop doing it.
Yeah.
Because the tension is our enemy, as you heard earlier in our interview with Endel as well. I mean, that's everybody's issue, is to try and train the horse without tension.
Right.
So
absolutely.
That's my 5 cents, I guess.
Well done, Phil. Well, everybody, you can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our website, dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
The best way to find me is on Facebook, probably, and my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week for allowing us to put on a good show, and don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we'll talk to you next week.